Welcome to Citywide Stories. Today Citywide Stories is coming from Lena Valley and our guest storyteller is Agnes Webb. Welcome Agnes, and perhaps for those at Mornington who don't know you as well as the people here at Lena Valley, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Scotland, hence the accent, and grew up in Scotland too. I came from a happy childhood home. I'm the eldest daughter of two. My sister arrived 5 years after me. I've got lots of fond memories of family and friends, and even although we were a small family, we had an extended family. It wasn't a Christian home that I grew up in, but I was sent to Sunday school at a young age, and it was a Brethren Sunday school. And there's nothing quite like Brethren Sunday schools for teaching memory verses in the Bible, etc. And one of my treasured possessions when I was 10 was the Bible that I won for being able to recite John 14 and 15. And they remain my favourite Bible chapters today. I go to them often. It was at that little Sunday school that I accepted Jesus into my life. And then when I was 11, we moved to another district within the small town that I lived in, and we started going to the Baptist church. And I was introduced to Christian Endeavour, which is a great learning place for young Christians. And that's where I got my grounding in their guiding and their teaching. I credit them with what I do within the church and outside the church today, is the training that I got in Christian Endeavour. I left school when I was 15, didn't go to college. I worked in a big ladies' fashion department store as their junior sales girl for about 12 months, and then got promoted as their cashier. And hence my love for finances. and then moved down to a gents' tailor shop later on. When I was 19, I got a bit restless and made the decision together with a friend to come to Australia for a 2-year working holiday. So I came out as a 10-pound pom, and came out to Victoria because I had relatives there, and started going to the Dandenong Baptist Church there, and got involved in Christian Endeavour again. And I remember going when we had to have a medical to come out here, the doctor saying that one of you or both of you will not come back, you will get married. He was right. Within the 2 years, I had met a young man at Dandenong Baptist. We got married and moved to Devonport because that was his hometown. So I came to live in Devonport, and of course went to the Baptist church there and got involved in youth group and Girls Brigade, and had our 3 children there. And it was like every marriage, up and down, and things happened, and my husband had different jobs. And in the early 80s, we took over running the Mersey Bluff Caravan Park in Devonport, which I enjoyed. I was also working in the church office, had been for a while, and I actually was the administrator of the church as well. So we were there for 13 years and after 32 years of marriage, my husband decided he didn't want to be married anymore, certainly not to me, and so he left and went to the mainland. And I stayed in the caravan park because I had nowhere else to go. So I ran that together with an older couple who helped me for 6 years. But his going was the beginning of a very difficult few years, because just after he went, my sister and my mum and dad came out to Australia 10 years after I did. So they were in Devonport, and my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer and spine cancer. So there was a 6-year difficult journey of her with her treatment. She had an 8-year-old daughter that had to be cared for as well. So that was very difficult. 3 years into her diagnosis, my mum was diagnosed with dementia. So it was a really, really hard time. So God and I had a lot of words. But I knew his strength. And somebody gave me a CD with the song Day by Day and Hour by Hour, You Are Carried, I Am Carried. And that was my mantra, together with Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, which I wouldn't say are my favourite verses because they're very hard to live by sometimes. But there were verses that were given to me when I was baptised at 16. They were given to me again when I left Scotland to come here. And they were given to us again when we were married. So by that time, God had got my attention. And I try and live by these verses. But it was a difficult time. My sister passed away in 2005 and my mum in 2006. My dad had previously passed away. So when my niece decided to leave and go to the mainland to live, I decided to come down here and be with my own children. I have 3 children. 2 live here. 1 is now living in England, was then in Queensland. So that's how I arrived here.
And we're thankful and blessed that you came here. You mentioned earlier that you're a mum and a grandma and a great-grandmother.
And a great-grandma.
And you mentioned also that you thought today is better known as Mothering Day. Would you like to explain a little more about that?
Yeah, I enjoyed being a mum. I love my children. It wasn't easy, but really enjoyed being a grandma because you can love them to death and send them back. And I am really enjoying being a great-grandma to a delightful 2.5-year-old and about to be a great-grandma again. But I said about the mothering because I was involved in youth group and that was a really nurturing time with teenagers going through breakups and he doesn't like me and she doesn't like me and all that sort of thing. And I remember we used to have it in our home and I spent many an evening in my bedroom with somebody counselling them. So there was nurturing there and also through Girls Brigade. I was a leader and the captain, they used these words back then, the leader on my church one and became state commissioner for 9.5 years. And so ran many camps and things like that. And I just love it when I go back to Devonport and I meet some of the girls that have been in Girls Brigade and they, stop in the street and speak to you because you've spoken into their lives and they remember them. And that's why I like Mothering Sunday.
The hut here at Lena Valley and now at Mornington has a very special place in your heart because of Rehok. Would you like to tell us finally a little bit about Rehok?
Sure. Rehok means renewed hope for orphan and vulnerable children. And this story is actually a Devonport Baptist story. We sold a property up there and we tithed the money that we sold, and the church felt that they wanted to be involved with children overseas. So we looked at different organisations, etc., but God just firmly closed the door on all of them. And then in 2009, I didn't go because I had just moved down here. There was a team went on a mission awareness trip, and there they came across a lady called Annie Sheba. And Annie was in a rented home. She had her own home, but she had rented a home and she had 5 children in care. And she shared with that team her dream. The government had given her land to build an orphanage, but she didn't have money. So the team, there was things that happened that really cemented to the team that this was where God wanted Devonport Baptist Church to speak into. So they came home and shared that with the church, and the church agreed. So in 2 years, they raised $60,000 to build the house. And Mobile Mission Maintenance, who've got a place in Zambia, they built the house up to a roof level. And in 2011, a group of us myself included, went over to put the roof on, paint, and do all of that sort of stuff. Lena Valley Church here got right behind me, and we had a massive car boot sale or garage sale here in the church, and we raised $3,000 for that trip. So we went across and did that. And while we were there and building on the property every day, there was just children around us all the time. So we had children who should have been in school. So we talked to Annie about that, and it was a case of they didn't have money. If you don't have money, you don't go to school. So when the team went back to Devonport, they decided that they would send out a plea for education for the children. And at this point, there are 300 children being supported through people who have given money. $200 a year will send the children to school, give them their uniforms, and give them food on their plate. I shared it here with Lena Valley, and then my friends David and Julie came down and shared a bit more. And I think it was Morris French stood up here and said, I think we can extend our hut from 5 to 10. So that's where it came about that Lena Valley got involved, and I'm grateful that Mornington is now on board. There are other people at Mornington and here who support Rehawk in different ways. Annie has since built a school there, and that's becoming a bit self-supporting, giving her some money. But of course, there's always financial restraints, but she appreciates very much the prayer support that she gets from Hobart and the people here in Devonport, etc. So I went back in 2014, and then we made curtains and did all sorts of things, but spent a lot of time with children, and we also had some sessions with mothers in the compound, and we had taken money for them to help them set up little businesses, and I spent a couple of days just giving them very basic bookkeeping skills so that they could organise their own lives. So I love Zambia. I love the people of Zambia. They have nothing and they have everything. They have the joy of the Lord in them, and they teach us such a lot about trusting God for things. I was amazed at how much I wasn't expecting to like it, but I was amazed at how much I loved it. And Annie gave us the first time we were there, she had a talk to us and gave us a Bible verse, and it's now one of my go-to verses, Ephesians 2:10. You are God's masterpiece, created anew in Christ Jesus to do the work that he's already prepared for you to do. So my story is now, what is he preparing me for now?
Thanks, Agnes, for sharing not just your story, but your heart. Let me pray for you now. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful lady and her love for you and her love for this church and the wider community, especially the community of Zambia. I pray that you'll continue to bless her, protect her, and give her joy in her walk and service with you. Thank you again for her story. In your Son's name, amen.